While tensions seem to be growing between Washington and Jerusalem, U.S. President Joe Biden last week gave the State of the Union address in which he once again reiterated U.S. support for Israel. On hand at the speech were also released hostages who sought to raise awareness of the remaining 134 hostages still in captivity. And joining us now is Jewish American activist Emily Austin, who was also in attendance at the event. Emily, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me today.
So you were there at the State of the Union. Let's talk about the speech itself. I mean, what did you make of Biden's speech?
For the most part, I was very upset. It's not a secret that America is very divided right now. We're very polarized. Sitting above him, I didn't have the best hearing of what he was saying, but based on the audience's reaction, you can tell he said something against the Republicans when all the Democrats would stand up, and then vice versa. The Republicans only stood when he said, okay, I'm almost done. And the polarization was deeply upsetting. And then also right next to me was Mia Shem and her mother was in tears the whole time and quite honestly distracted me because I couldn't stop crying watching her cry. So my attention was diverted between trying to listen to Biden and then watching Mia's mother and just having my heart broken.
I mean, you were also there to highlight the plight of the hostages, the fact that there are still 134 hostages being held by Hamas. You wore a big yellow ribbon on your dress. Was there really a sense that this issue was on the agenda and on the minds of the members of Congress and of President Biden?
The members of Congress, yes. Right before the State of the Union address began, there was a cocktail reception. All of the hostage families were present. They were speaking with congressmen, senators, the Speaker of the House. They all wore yellow scarves to represent that they were the families of the hostages. So it would be very hard for me to believe that all of the attention, or a lot of it, was not on the families. However, I was personally disappointed because I feel as if the topic of Israel itself, and specifically the hostage families, was breezed over. And then you hear how emphasized the war on Russia and Ukraine was, that almost makes it feel like it was neglected when they spoke so little about Israel. So I was very disappointed because having so many families in attendance, they're waiting to hear what he's going to say about them, whether he's going to reaffirm a plan to get the hostages back, and he didn't.
And I mean, you said that you were sitting next to Mia Shem, one of the released hostages, and you said her mother was crying throughout. I mean, what can you tell us about that? Why was she crying?
I'm sure it was emotional to see so many families in the balcony. Of course, I can't speak on her behalf, but there are so many families suffering the same fate that she did. Now, Mia was one of the lucky ones to get to return home, but I'm sure being there in the presence of so many families who are suffering as well can't be easy on a mother. I'm not even a mother, and I can't imagine if something like that happened to me one day. And I think it was just an emotional scene. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if she was upset by the fact that it was very much breezed over. I think it was just, an overwhelming room. There was an overwhelming amount of support, not only from the people who attended, from the congressmen, but overall, it was a very emotional night. I mean, personally, I was choked up beginning to end. I couldn't even speak.
And, you said there was a lot of support, but we also saw many anti-Israel voices in the crowd, most notably the Squad. I mean, how notable was their presence during this event?
Being completely honest, their presence was unseen and unheard. There was so much support amongst, like I said, the congressmen for the hostages to return home. There were congressmen with the sticker counting how many days there were remaining, how many days that the hostages are in Gaza. There was a full crowd standing ovation. I did not see the Squad specifically, so I can't confirm or deny that they stood, but almost the entire audience stood up when Biden did address his short mention of the hostages. So I did not feel or see their presence. I think that the State of the Union deliberately didn't address a lot of important matters, and therefore it was just kind of all over the place. So I didn't feel the Squad's presence, the Hamas caucus's presence.
So, Emily, here in Israel and, of course, among the Jewish community around the world, October 7th and the ongoing war are a major issue of major concern. But, as a young American Jewish activist, I'm interested to hear from you how the young generation in the United States views the issue of the hostages. We've heard many, conflicting polls, but I want to hear from you. If you can maybe give us sort of some insight into how the young American, youth view this issue.
Gen Z and below have been absolutely poisoned by TikTok, and this is a conversation you and I had when it came to Iran a couple of months ago. But the truth is, something as small, not as small as TikTok, but as unreliable as social media is brainwashing the youth. So they are all led to believe that Israel is the villain, Israel is the modern day Nazi, and without doing any due diligence or homework, they're so quick to believe it. And we're not doing enough of an initiative to try to change the minds. There aren't enough loud voices out there that are debating and engaging with these people. And quite honestly, they don't want to be educated. They are set in their ways. They're very uninformed. They're very ill-willed. Everything they do is about attention and trying to be social justice warriors, but they have selective outreach. For example, you will always hear ceasefire now, but you will not hear release the hostages. Why can't you call for a ceasefire and at the same time also demand the hostages return home? But they've desensitized themselves to all matters pertaining to Israel because we, the Israelis, have been painted as the modern day villains, and no one's trying to debunk that narrative.
All right, well, that's unfortunate. Emily Austin, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
I appreciate it.